Hi, everybody. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live. So I'm Stephane Estevez. I'm taking care of the market advisory, the observability market advisory at Splunk for EMEA. And I'm delighted to be joined by James and Rachel. If you can quickly introduce yourself.
After you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Bourne. I'm one of the observability advisors for the UK and Ireland. So what does that mean? I'm basically supporting a lot of organisations with their observability maturity as they continue at different levels of their journey.
And I'm James Astley. I'm from Somerford Associates. We're one of the largest Splunk partners across EMEA. I am also general manager for our Middle East operation, but also very heavily connected with our UK operations as well. And looking forward to the conversation today.
So first, thank you for joining. Really appreciate that. So we will talk about the state of observability because we just released a report, and this is something we do. We started a few years ago. Just as a quick introduction, we're talking here about observability. I want just to recap why observability is now the buzzword, I would say. We've seen many customers changing the way they created applications, right? Moving from monolith to microservices. Then they had to adapt the way they provided computing power to these new highly distributed applications with microservices using containers, functions, all these fancy new technologies that are highly ephemeral. At the same time, that's a transition to the cloud, so to something that somebody else will manage for you. So in I would say an opaque infrastructure. So when you combine a highly distributed application running on a highly ephemeral infrastructure that you don't always see all the details because somebody else's data center, that creates a lot of unknowns, and that's how people started working on observability. And so that's why we wanted to survey. We surveyed, I think, 1,800 IT operations, SREs, CTOs from different industries. I think it was 16 industries, something like that, to just understand what's happening. And the first thing that struck me is that on average, just to understand how IT provide service to the business and to understand the performance and the availability and so on average, people said that they use 23 tools. So that's a lot. And that's explained why only 24% of the respondents could correlate data across all those tools. So basically you have information, but you don't have the context. So you don't know really what's happening. But what really was more even impactful is the consequence, which is 66% say that they were losing experts, right? Staff members that are critical because of this alert fatigue. So that brought some conversations around how you can improve the fact that you have too many tools and how you can help people to absorb this amount of alerts and so on. So Rachel, what's your point of view on that, talking with so many customers around observability?
Yeah, well, I would say the number in tools is actually relatively low. I mean, I was speaking the other day to another customer and they were up to like over 47 plus. Yep. So I think it's an explosion, and it's an explosion because we're dealing with all these new environments because our business needs that demand to scale for that demand. So we've got customers that are using those microservices and ephemeral services to support the transactions that they need to deliver to their customers, to their internal employees. But equally, on the flip side, they're still having to run some of their traditional applications. They might be 3-tier, they might be on-premise for security and audit compliance reasons. So we're in this kind of like hybrid landscape where not one tool fits all, but actually we're trying to use observability or through observability get better insights from all of these different landscapes by making sure that we can ask the right questions of our data, we can correlate that and analyze it in real time, and the speed is kind of key to this, because in some scenarios when you look at your 3-tier architecture, there are known things you can go after, so we can take a more traditional approach to that. But for our microservices cloud native architectures, there's so much change. A group of transactions could happen and go through absolutely fine, and then another group of transactions could completely fail, and linking them, sometimes there is no reason or rhyme why one succeeded and one didn't, or one partially completed. So through that, we need to have a more dynamic way of surfacing some of the signals that are coming through, so we can understand what's happening in each user journey, and making sure that through kind of the front end experience all the way to the back end, we have a good understanding about what's happening with that transaction to make sure it successfully completes. So this means that actually we've had to take a change in the type of tooling we're using, our approach to the tooling, and a lot of that is driven by how we collect the data, what signals we look at. Quite often in observability, we talk about kind of standard signals, metrics, traces and logs, or events in order to help us get to that data. But equally, we're focusing on real user monitoring data, synthetic data to complement that, profiling data even. So the way we've done that is now needed to have a retrospective look at kind of what how we collect, how we look at kind of this different signals, and making sure we're picking out the right signals that are important to our business. So defining that early on for each customer is kind of the key to successfully setting up an observability platform. And through that, you can start to make decisions about tool rationalization. Does this monitoring tool for this part of the process do what I need it to do, or do I need something a little bit more agile, a little bit more future-proof for the approach we're taking for this service now? And that's what a lot of the questions that we're dealing with customers, or customers are asking of their data now.
So, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I want to make sure that I keep that in mind. So how to get the data, because I think that's a big topic. But you're also talking about the business. And I want to have the point of view of James, because you have this this huge, I would say, geographic coverage and talking to a lot of different industries. And I know, again, that you travel a lot and live in different countries, right? So again, I keep mentioning that because it's important. But one thing that we find out is investing in observability, so what we call the leaders, so people that spend enough time and have dedicated people working on observability and so on in the reports, there's a very high return on investment. I think for every dollar you spend, you get 2.67 back, or something like that. But also there is another figure that for me was really important, is that they were able to ship 72% more code and features, so which mean basically business. What's your point of view? What are you seeing, I would say, in the markets on how observability helped really the business and the C-level and the board basically to improve the user experience, because that's what matters at the end.
Absolutely, and I think this is a viewpoint across the whole of EMEA in terms of the different markets that I'm lucky enough to go and see and be a part of, and a lot of the organisations I get to sit down with on a day-to-day basis. The thing for me is awareness. I think that's the biggest change, certainly from last year to this year, just the general understanding of what observability is and the importance of observability. And to Rachel's point, embedding it early in terms of that development cycle, because when you sort of roll it back up to a sort of business outcome, or why are we doing this? Well, it's improving reliability. It's helping provide more scalability. And fundamentally, for most organizations we work with, their product or their service, they want good user experience. If the customer's happy, they're having a positive interaction, a positive experience, then they're going to see an uptick in revenues. So an uptick in revenues drives further innovation leads to better outcomes for a business. And the thing I'm seeing is leaders really understanding that, and they're seeing that at the forefront, and they're seeing that observability isn't just housed in as a technology piece anymore. Actually, it's coming right the way back up, and it's impacting business strategy, and that strategy is then rolling down into initiatives and objectives and programs.
Just do the test. Go to an application and wait few seconds for the spinning wheel and see how you react. I think
Exactly.
so. That's just as obvious as that. And to your point, I mean, I want to mention, and this is data I keep mentioning. So if somebody already have seen other conversations we had, it's the same. But for me, it's not only about how fast is the application, but and just get back to something acceptable. But if you improve the speed itself, it has a direct impact in the revenue. And as keep mentioning that report, because Deloitte does a great job on that. They were testing applications in parallel and then just improve by 0.1 second. And that's in some verticals represented up to 9% revenue. And that figure for me, it's like I need to tattoo it because it's just really amazing. Just 0.1 second improvement, what it means in terms of revenue. So, Rachel, you mentioned getting data, right? So, observability is a data problem, I guess. One of the figures, if I remember well, also that I thought was interesting, is the leaders in observability, so people that are mature, they're all, 78%, adopting OpenTelemetry.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
really.
why should people care about it? And then, James, I have a question for you because I think it's related to security. But let's start with Rachel.
I mean, it's a really interesting topic because I'm in constant communication with customers, and every time I see them looking at observability, OpenTelemetry, they are looking at an observability project. They're struggling to access the data they want about intelligence about their own business. So they're inadvertently turning to OpenTelemetry as a way, as a unanimous standard that is agreed in the market as an approach to collecting some of this data, some of these signals that are really critical to tell us key kind of insights about what's happening with each of our transactions that we want to understand more about that journey, and feeding into some of those unknown unknowns in the environment. It's a standard. It's a standard that collectively lots of organizations and individuals are contributing to. It's part of the CNCF project. The biggest project in that is Kubernetes, and then this one's one behind, but actually it's shortly going to overtake Kubernetes, which really is a testament to how much people are looking at this as an adoption method. And why? Why? Because it's going to give people the flexibility to put in all of the signals that they need about their business in a standardized way without vendor lock-in. And that's really important. So as you adapt, as you grow your practice, you can adapt and change the types of signals you want to take in. You can make them personal to your business. For example, we know like a big sportswear brand are tracking kind of a metric on every shoe they sell. You know, that they're able to get into the nuances of what's important to their business and apply that in the collection method that they're pulling that data in. That's a really important piece to kind of highlight here. And through this, not only are you getting rid of that vendor lock-in, but you're able to consume and adapt additional cloud technologies or wider technologies as the portfolio, as the project broadens. You've got the ability to adapt and future-proof how you look at collecting telemetry data as in your observability practice. So this is why it's quite important, and this is why I think we're starting to see a real step change in people you looking at this in tandem with an observability project. It's not just about the tool you choose to process and analyze that data. It's fundamentally about the collection underneath it, and then where you choose to point that data afterwards is then another topic of conversation.
But one thing I like about OpenTelemetry as well is the role it has for compliance. You know, you can anonymize data, you can do a lot of stuff and filtering before and so on. And it's open source, so you see what you're sending, right? So you make sure you don't send things you shouldn't to the back end. James, at Somerford, I know that you guys have like two different hats, right? Security and observability. And I know that you are a fan of DevSecOps, but how observability can help with that? And does it help?
It absolutely does, and I probably wouldn't have said it, probably wouldn't have agreed maybe a couple of years ago, more from the security side. But as we've developed our observability practice and we've understood more and more about what observability brings, and its importance and its role to play, certainly in that digital transformation program that all organizations are going through. Everyone's got that program in place at the moment in different stages of maturity. What it is doing is allowing the worlds to come together. I will advocate, and I'll be very clear about this. I think there's still a place for those domain-specific tools, and there are tools that are specific to each industry and each area within the business. But if we can bring those together, and I think what observability does, it allows context to flow between the different teams, and there is overlap that both sides of the business can leverage. And with observability, we're looking now at how we can bring that across and really start to drive or probably foster that cultural change within organizations. And we're seeing that world of DevSecOps and that sort of piece coming together. And that's been driven by actually the security team having context on what's happening on a microservice. If something's gone down or something's happening to that service, okay, is that irregular? Is that abnormal? Okay, and is that a precursor to something? Is that something that they can then utilize to give context to their threat hunting, their investigations? And actually, they're starting to talk, they're starting to come together. Whereas I would certainly say a couple of years ago, it was pretty much a hard brick wall between the two. Bit by bit, we are chipping away at that, and observability is playing a huge part.
It's I remember the wall of confusion between dev and ops. So it's just one thing, and you mentioned abnormal, so that makes me think about another topic, but for you, Rachel, but in a second. But just to carry on with you, James, if that's okay, because you mentioned DevSecOps and different tools and yada yada and working together. That resonates with something in the report, which is the platform engineering adoption. I think that there is 50. They say that 55% mention that it improved the IT efficiency. 42% say that it improved the application reliability, and then again providing more code. I mean, if you want to elaborate a little bit more, platform engineering, it sounds like it's the new cool kids on the block in the organization. So
I would absolutely agree with that. In my world and what my team talk about, the platform engineering team and the engineers themselves, they are the new rock stars in the business, because they are directly impacting business services and what organizations do in terms of how they go to market. So platform engineering, you've gone from the world of SREs and development. They're the next step up. But what they're doing is they're allowing platforms to be combined. They're allowing different ephemeral systems to come together to then actually give a true visibility to the business. They're allowing things to be viewed faster and be pushed out more quickly, more reliably. And actually now what we're seeing is it's also breaking down the barriers where certainly in that sort of development team, it's always the person who picked up the issue or picked up the problem was the person who'd been at the organization for 10 years, knew the application inside and out, knew all the problems. But what observability is doing is you've got people coming into industry, and with that visibility, they can ask the questions they don't know the answers to. They can suddenly pick up and understand and investigate and look into code quicker. And actually, organizations are not moving away from this sort of release of code once a week or certain days. We're pushing releases out all the time. We're pushing changes out all the time. It's just keeping up with that speed of digital transformation, that speed of change that we're all being held accountable to.
Yeah. So we're almost reaching the end, right? So, but I wanted to get back to the abnormal. So very quickly, Rachel, I know you're passionate about that. That's why I say very quickly. AAOps. So yeah, that's also a big part. And it seems that AAOps and observability are like the best friends forever, right? Anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because it's not something that's new to the party. I think we couldn't have used or developed observability tooling and gone as far as we have done without machine learning and AI capabilities behind it. And it's something that we continue to really invest in as a whole industry, as a whole practice. Because we have to, in order to surface the insights we need, in order to reduce the alerts, in order to give us direct troubleshooting to pinpoint certain errors in the environment, we have to have a level of machine learning and AI. And I think it's really interesting because now we're on this real big wave of where that's going to take us to remove certain human processes, to make sure that we can auto remediate a little bit more, to make sure that people who are coming to the environment who have necessarily not enough context or understanding or previous learnings about an incident have the knowledge at their fingertips in order to help support or remediate that issue that's come to light. And do that in a really pinpointed way. So we're not waking up everybody at like 5 o'clock in the morning to fix an issue.
That's my experience.
or 3 o'clock, and make sure that actually we're all like the right people are informed at the right time, and it's not a big surprise to everyone, and we can kind of get back to running the business as normal, because we know when we talk about resilience, we know we're going to get hit with these things all the time. It's part of our constant evolving environment. We are going to continue to have outages and things to happen. It's all about how we bounce back from that moving forwards, and AI and generative AI are linchpins in helping us to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, thank you. I will try to summarize. If I don't do it well, I'm sorry, but I will do my best. But my understanding after reading the report is basically, in a nutshell, observability is no longer an option. That's the baseline. It's a data problem. So if you plan to properly apply observability, you need to think about how you get data in. That sounds like it's OpenTelemetry. You need to have a look at how you're going to do that and make sure that you have the right organization in place, as you mentioned, James, with the platform engineering approach, and just make sure that you can mitigate the side effects of observability, because now you're going to see everything. Because now you can troubleshoot every single user experience in the right way with all the context, but get ready for that and make sure that you have an AOps strategy at the same time in parallel to at the end get the real benefits, which is you have now innovation, or just think about the return on investment. For every dollar you put on observability, the report says that you get $2.67 back, or euros, or whatever pounds or we're using. So, or pesetas in Spain, it doesn't exist anymore. Spanish as well. So anyway, really, I mean, thanks a lot for joining this live session. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, James. And we will do very soon a webinar a little bit more detailed. So make sure you register as well. Thank you.
Thanks.